Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our channel. If you're a fan of epic Marvel stories, intense showdowns, and twists that hit like a repulsor blast, you're in the right place. Today, we're diving into one of Iron Man's wildest adventures. So buckle up, hit that like button, and if you haven't already, subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a moment. All right, let's get started. Iron Man, Legacy of Doom, Volume 1. In a secluded lab beneath Stark International's Coney Island complex, Tony Stark stood silently before a glowing vat of molten metal. Within the swirling orange liquid, the Mark 8 armor, the very suit that had carried him through brutal battles and near-death encounters, was slowly disintegrating. The hiss of liquefying titanium alloy filled the room, echoing like a funeral dirge. Though he was used to upgrading and evolving his technology, watching one of his creations melt down felt like watching a part of himself vanish. With a heavy heart, he turned away and approached his console, determined to preserve what he could. He slid the suit's internal memory chipset into the database system, allowing the AI to archive its recorded data before it was lost forever. As the memory uploaded, holographic images flickered across the screen. Tony squinted, confused. The footage showed him floating in space outside Stark International's orbital research station, just days ago. But he had no memory of the mission. His confusion turned to alarm when Dr. Doom appeared in the recording, standing across from him in the void. That didn't make sense. The last time Tony had seen Doom was years ago, when a temporal rift sent him spiraling back to Camelot. Doom was there too, forming an unholy alliance with Morgana Le Fay. Tony had fought for King Arthur, while Doom commanded an undead army. In the end, Morgana betrayed Doom, and the two enemies were forced to work together, merging their armors to create a one-time jump back to the present. They returned in silence, parting under an uneasy truce. Doom swearing revenge. But he never made good on that threat. And now, this new footage didn't add up. Tony leaned closer, eyes locked on the screen, trying to force the truth out of his own mind. He focused, blocking out everything else. And then, like a crack in a dam, the memory broke through. He had been conducting data scans outside the orbital station when an unexpected voice echoed in his helmet. "I'm afraid you have to finish your science project later." Tony had turned sharply, surprised. And there stood Dr. Doom, his metallic armor gleaming, his cape drifting weightlessly in space. Instinct took over, and Tony immediately fired a laser blast from his gauntlet. But the beam passed right through Doom. Just a hologram. "What do you want, Doom?" he had demanded, hovering in battle-ready stance. Doom's voice was calm, almost grim. "I need you. Millions of lives are in danger. Come to my castle in Latveria." Then, without further explanation, the image vanished, leaving Tony in stunned silence. Tony acted swiftly. Doom's words carried the weight of urgency, and despite their long history of conflict, Tony couldn't ignore the possibility of lives at risk. He shot down toward Earth, slicing through the atmosphere like a falling star until Latverian airspace came into view. Almost immediately, a fighter jet locked onto him and opened fire, but Tony dodged effortlessly, accelerating toward the heart of the country. Below him, chaos raged. Hundreds of rebel forces had surrounded Dr. Doom's castle. Tanks lined the hillsides, rocket launchers fired in rapid succession, and soldiers advanced in formation. But Doom's defenses held strong. His signature laser shield shimmered around the towering fortress, deflecting every explosive with cold precision. As Iron Man hovered above the battlefield, a familiar image appeared in front of him, another hologram of Doom. "Welcome, Iron Man. Enter through the hatch I'll open in the shield, he said. A small section of the energy barrier flickered and opened, just wide enough for Tony to pass through. Without hesitation, he descended into the heart of the enemy stronghold. Inside, Doom's castle was a blend of medieval architecture and cutting-edge technology. Cold stone walls met humming machines, and the corridors buzzed with power. In the central command chamber, Dr. Doom stood waiting, regal, armored, unmoved by the war outside. With all this technology, he said with a smirk, how can you be so slow to respond to an emergency? Tony crossed his arms, unimpressed. What's going on, Doom? There's a war outside your walls. Doom laughed darkly. Just a few rebels playing soldier, they'll be gone soon. Just then, one of Doom's scientists entered the room, holding a sleek, glowing truncheon. Sir, the neutron pulse engine is ready. Doom took the weapon, eyes gleaming with dangerous intent. Perfect. I'll destroy them anyway. But before he could take a step, Tony grabbed his arm. Wait! You can't do this! They're just normal people, Doom! You can't just wipe them out! Doom slowly turned, his voice dripping with disdain. You and your ridiculous Avengers always have to play the hero. Fine. You have 10 minutes. Disperse them, or I erase them all. Without waiting for another word, Tony blasted into the sky, exiting the shield and diving straight into the battlefield. The rebels spotted him instantly and opened fire with everything they had. A fighter jet screamed through the clouds and launched a missile. Tony zipped through the explosion, closed in on the jet, latched onto its hull, and tore open the cockpit. Without hesitation, he grabbed the pilot, yanked him out, and hurled him toward the ground, right into the chaos of crisscrossing missiles and anti-air fire. The jet spun out of control and exploded in the distance as Iron Man dropped into the heart of the armored brigade below. One by one, he disabled the rebel tanks with precision repulsor blasts, toppling them like dominoes. Rocket launchers aimed for him, but Tony blasted them out of soldiers' hands before they could fire. He wasn't killing, he was disarming, neutralizing, overwhelming. His power and speed stunned the rebels, forcing them into a chaotic retreat. Within minutes, the battlefield had been cleared, not by violence, but by sheer dominance. As the smoke settled and the rebels fled into the hills, Iron Man hovered above the ruins of the confrontation. He took a deep breath and turned back toward Doom's fortress, the glow of the shield still shimmering in the distance. When Tony Stark returned to Dr. Doom's command chamber, the air had shifted, charged with something darker. Doom turned to him without hesitation. Okay, he said coldly. Now it's time to go. Tony narrowed his eyes. Go where exactly? Doom didn't even pause. My Kabbalistic probes have detected that Mephisto, the ruler of hell, has found a way to bring about the end of time itself, the collapse of all reality. I've modified my time cube to travel between dimensions. We're going to his realm. Tony folded his arms, armor humming faintly. You remember how well time travel worked out for us last time? Doom nodded. This time, my teleporters are linked directly to our energy signatures. They'll send a signal to the cube and bring us back. With a motion from his gauntlet, Dr. Doom summoned a glowing cube laced with violet lightning. Then he conjured a second one and handed it to Tony Stark. This one's for you, he said calmly. Tony took the device, his instincts immediately on high alert. He turned it over in his palm, watching the energy pulse inside, steady, rhythmic, almost like a heartbeat. Then he looked up at Doom. Let me see yours, he said. Doom raised an eyebrow, but obliged, handing over his own cube without a word. Now holding both, Tony ran a full diagnostic scan through his armor, checking for hidden enchantments, molecular irregularities, frequency mismatches, anything that screamed trap. The scan finished in seconds. Both devices were identical. No tampering, no surprises, at least none he could detect. He handed Doom's cube back, but kept his tone cautious. "All right, but why me? Why bring me into this?" Doom didn't answer. Instead, he activated his cube, and a swirling dimensional rift erupted into the air before them. Boiling red flame twisting with black smoke, pulsing like a wound torn open in reality. In the quick moment that followed, they disappeared through the vortex, and moments later, they arrived in hell. The air was thick with heat and smoke. Jagged cliffs of scorched stone rose from lakes of fire. The sky above them pulsed a deep blood red, while the ground groaned beneath their feet. Twisted creatures roamed everywhere, some winged, some crawling, some massive and horned. This was no metaphor. This was actual hell. Tony barely had time to process the sight when the first wave of beasts came charging. Hulking, snarling things with molten skin and glowing eyes. Doom raised his hand and unleashed a beam of raw green energy, vaporizing a dozen instantly. But it made no difference. Dozens more took their place. Iron Man fired up his repulsors and blasted through the swarm, but they just kept coming. Wave after wave. Thinking fast, Tony took to the sky, searching for any advantage. He flew upward with full force, piercing through the cavern ceiling and breaking it open. Through the jagged hole, molten lava from above poured down in a blazing torrent, engulfing dozens of strange creatures below and clearing a temporary path. From that vantage point, Tony spotted an old wooden door, worn and weathered like an office door, standing oddly amidst the chaos. "Doom!" he called out, pointing. "Over there!" They fought their way forward, pushing through the burning onslaught until they reached the wooden door. Tony didn't hesitate. With a powerful punch, he shattered the old wooden door, sending splinters flying as it collapsed inward. Inside, seated calmly on a throne carved from volcanic rock, was Mephisto. He smiled as they entered. "Welcome to hell," he said smoothly, almost pleased. Dr. Doom walked in without flinching. "You've changed since the last time I was here," he said. Tony blinked. "Wait, the last time?" Doom didn't answer. He stepped forward and extended his hand. Mephisto's smile widened. "A deal is a deal," he said, producing a small, glowing red stone. It shimmered with eerie power, and he placed it gently into Doom's palm. Something felt wrong. Tony's instincts were screaming. Casually, he reached for his signal cube and tried to activate it. Nothing. It didn't respond. His armor was still functioning, but the dimensional recall was dead. He turned to Doom, voice low and sharp. "What did you do?" Doom looked over his shoulder, voice cold and void of remorse. "Forgive me, Stark. I traded your soul for magical knowledge." Before Tony could react, Doom activated his own cube. With a flash of light, he vanished, leaving only silence and fire. Tony spun around. The shadows around him thickened. The growling returned. The creatures had come back. More of them now, surrounding him like predators circling prey. Mephisto leaned forward, eyes glowing like embers. "You will stay here forever, Stark." To be continued. Thanks so much for watching, Legends. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Iron Man, Legacy of Doom, smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe for more epic Marvel breakdowns, scene rewrites, and storytelling like you've never seen before. Until next time, stay heroic.